how are each of you involved or invested in this topic that we have today? Christian, I know I have my own reasons, and that's why TRINICY is actually mostly trying to confront. But let's hear from everybody, how you got into the work, or what current projects you're working on to expose Christianophobia, or to kind of illuminate this phenomena.
I just would like to add something to what the two gentlemen just said. And the big question is why nobody cares about Christian persecution in the West. Just a few days, a couple of weeks ago, Open Doors, the organization Open Doors, who is watching all the Christian persecutions in the whole world, they published their annual list of the most persecuted, of which country in the world where Christians are most persecuted. It's called the World Watch List 2020. And previously to that, and it's actually North Korea who is number one on the list. But previously to that, we have had some officials, political officials here in Denmark, who raised the question why no political leader in the West was, able to do anything about this and really didn't care about it. And I think that's something we really need to address. And I think it's because we are so used to that in a democracy that we believe that the problem will be solved with the next election and some politicians will take care of it. But unfortunately, it seems that the Western politicians or political leaders have turned against themselves. I mean, Europe and the US is built on a Christian foundation. And when they don't want to help Christianity abroad and in other countries where Christians are highly persecuted, it tells something about our own culture. It seems that we have sort of abolished or abandoned our own fundament because we don't care about it. And it's really irrational. And I would say that the world today is very irrational because we should really, really be doing everything we can to preserve Christian communities all around the world because it will strengthen our culture. It means that we are decaying. We don't even care about our own culture. We have turned our back on our own culture. And that's a very serious problem. And I think before we address that, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to talk about Christianophobia if we don't go to the core problem, which is that our leaders don't care about it. And why they don't care about it is because of ideology. And like I said before, we have this anti-Christian cultural Marxist agenda. And the whole point of the transgenderism and feminism and same-sex marriages and everything, identity politics, is to break down the Christian world order created by God. This is what it's all about. So of course, they don't care that some Christians in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Iraq or Africa would be persecuted because they want to break down even Christianity within their own circles. So this is a main problem, is that we have the enemy inside our own circles, our own governments. And I think that Christians need to wake up and understand this problem. So they have to give some sacrifices to revive the Christian culture. Otherwise, I don't know where this ends. We would be a new Soviet Union or we would be a new Islamic Republic, because there are only those two choices. And I think a lot of Christians in the West, they are still asleep. They do believe we still have Christian leaders and they will be in favor of the Christian faith, but they're not. And you would get the proof by seeing how they handle Christian persecution worldwide, because they really don't care about it.
Yeah, that's very true, because just looking at how society has changed in the US, and the whole formation, because of the foundation of the formation of the United States is established on biblical grounds. Going back to, for example, in South Africa as well, because you have for a long time, I think since the colonial era, Christianity basically is, you can say, the foundation of South Africa as a country as well. But of course, I think sort of looking at the parallels between South Africa and the US, where the first thing that really changed in society was particularly taking away, for example, prayer out of schools, taking away even Bible and biblical studies out of schools. Because then what you have is that you have a younger generation then that simply isn't taught biblical stuff. And I think just broadly, what is it? Conservative biblical moral values. Those are very, very pragmatic in terms of creating a good functional society. From from parenting to marriage, and also interpersonal relationships. So when you have those foundations eroded, now you begin to have a whole new generation that is definitely trying to figure itself out. And part of it, and of course, Christianity then is not part of the package of self-identity or even building society, just seen as actually a hindrance, because much of what people really want to do in life, the expression, you can say the theological thing of the expression of the sinful nature, is very much anti-Christian. And that's basically what we have in society, because then you have that mind of, okay, this is who I am. Because I remember, like in the 1990s, the whole phrase of think of, it's my life, I'll do what I want to do. That was very popular in the 1990s. There were songs about that in every talk show, from Oprah, Ricky Lake back then, whatever. It was always about, it's my life, I want to do what I want to do. Basically, the thing of taking Christian values out. And so then you have that, you can say, the expression of the sinful nature in society that is anti-Christian, and then that becomes the norm. And once then, because that has happened, I think since earlier on, even like in 1980s, 1990s, way back, now you have a whole new generation of people who just simply want to have that expression of that sinful nature, and they expect all that to be okay. And Christianity, that comes with its norms and values, and say no, those things are not okay, then of course that becomes an impediment to them. And of course anyone else who, especially in that whole generation, that seems to basically have kicked out the value of Christian values, when just embrace that whole expression of the sinful nature within themselves and in society. I think that's basically what we've seen.
I guess, as I approach this, I've done research, and I'll do some more research on this as I am able on the phenomenon, because I think that we have to, even if people aren't listening, we still have to get the evidence out there. I would also say, from a standpoint as a Christian, that we Christians have to just recognize that we are in a post-Christian world right now. And thus, what does that mean? And for me, what it means is that we have to really build our communities to withstand being in a post-Christian world. One thing I hope Trinicity can be is part of that larger Christian community as we build communities among ourselves, and then serve the larger society. So part of my commitment is, yes, to do research, but also to try to influence Christians to see the value of building their own communities that can be as self-sustaining as possible, and that we can have an environment to raise the next generation of Christians who can be there as things do fall apart, so that we can go forward. And so I think that's an important dynamic that we have to think about. You know, not just, okay, we have Christianophobia, what can we do about, there's some things happening that are bad, that are evil, that are awful, but how can we move forward? Since I don't think it's going to change in the near future.